Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming out to tonight. I genuinely appreciate everyone taking the time to learn about two amazing candidates. The Club Growth Director role, as I know firsthand, is a big responsibility. There's a lot of work, and past TRIO members like Mary Swanson can speak to that as well, the amount of work that goes into that. And as Linda Dorn's eyes have gotten big as saucers as she talks about that. And I don't believe it's too far off from when our fearless district director was in that role as well. I wanted to create an opportunity where we could learn more about our candidates tonight, and to lead us in this will be Brian Hinton. He'll be the moderator, and how we're going to do this is we're going to do table topics like questions. There have been 17 questions that have been pre-selected for the candidates, and I promise you they aren't too challenging of questions for the candidates. And then they're also going to have an opportunity to have closing statements. As I said, this is an opportunity for all of us to get to know these two amazing candidates. Our district director will serve as our timer, and that each question, each candidate will be allowed 1 to 2 minutes for each question. They are not required to speak for a minute. If it's a quick question, they can just get done like that. There were numbers that were drawn for a speaking order, and Linda will be speaking first. And then throughout our evening, just to make sure that it's an even playing field for both candidates, we will be rotating the speaking order throughout their evening. Is there any questions about how we're going to be doing that, conducting this tonight? Okay, well, great. With that, I will hand it over to the amazing District 6 Club Coach Chair, Distinguished Toastmaster, Mr. Brian Hinton, to lead us through this session.
Thank you very much, Colleen Marie. And I would ask that we all, if we're not speaking, that we keep our microphones on mute as well. All right. The first question, we might as well get started. The first question goes to Linda. You can unmute, Linda. Who is the most important person in Toastmasters, and why?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Fellow Toastmaster coaches and guests, always the member in my thinking. My mindset is always the member. What makes them comfortable to join and what keeps them to stay has been all the messaging. But what really matters at the end of the day is, are they improving? Are they seeking mentor and other relationships? And we help each other. Are they reaching out to each other in our clubs? Are the clubs strong enough to know what they need to do academically to move their club to strength? And what feeds the best from hierarchy down is at this TRIO level, it's about the managerial and reminding everyone of dates. So the clubs can just look at one little goal at a time moving forward. That goes then down to the division directors managing the area directors, and the area directors filling the field with each of the officers, and whatever the officers can bring to that club goes to all the members in that club. And that hierarchy is very important because we're all learning, we're all cordial, at least we hope so. And if not, we hope we take the criticism and know how to take that criticism for good. But at the end of the day, to me, it's always the members. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. David, please unmute.
All right.
Same question. I'll read it again. Who is the most important person in Toastmasters, and why?
Well, I really have to say that Linda has the right answer. It is the member. And at one time, I would have said, well, it's me, because I was just a lowly member, like all of our members really are. And lowly isn't really the right term, because we're all important. And I can remember all the help that I got going from a beginning Toastmaster reading my icebreaker word for word to speaking on stage for up to 500 people. And I felt pretty important at that time. And it was all the coaches, the club that I belonged to, and that environment that was so supportive that built me up to where I got to be. And I didn't know it at the time, but behind that, there are area directors and division directors and club growth directors and division directors that are supporting the member. And that's really what we're all here to do, is support each and every member in our district. Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, David. Our next question. David, oh, you are unmuted. Okay.
Yeah.
Next question. Why did you join Toastmasters and why do you stay?
I think I already told a little bit about that. I was a very nervous speaker. I worked in IT, and I realized that a lot of people in IT do not have very good communication skills. They would rather program a computer than talk to another person. And I realized if I was going to get ahead in my career, I needed to break that barrier and learn to be a good presenter and a good speaker and a good communicator. And it was a long journey. I was at Carlson Companies, and I talked to a colleague of mine who was a member of Toastmasters, like, oh yeah, come out to our club, you'll love it. But it was in the evening, and I had a young family, so there was no way I could do that. It wasn't until I got downtown and I knew I needed Toastmasters, and there was an ad in the Minneapolis Reader for the Thrift Builders Toastmaster Club, less than a block from where I worked. And so I almost literally ran over there and joined that club. And that's where I got all the profound skills that I've developed over the years. And the reason I stay is I'm still learning. I'm honing my skills. I'm catching my odds and ums. And a lot of it now is about leadership. Of course, speaking is a leadership skill, but there are many other leadership skills, project management, influencing others. And those are all things that I have learned and am learning as I continue my leadership roles in Toastmasters. Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, David. Join Toastmasters and why do you stay?
Thank you, Brian. Why did I start Toastmasters? First part of the question for me is not a question. I had seen posters at the corporate setting about Toastmasters. It was right next to a poster for the ski club. And I was looking, well, gee, they're both drinking clubs and I want to make new friends. And a friend came down the hall and I said, what's the difference between the ski club and Toastmasters? And he hits me in the arm. Take the Toastmasters. It will advance your career. So I went, oh, okay, they're both meeting at the same bar. What's that? And that day before I decided to go, I had a tumultuous event occur to me in a meeting where I couldn't say the right thing. It wasn't the right thing the manager wanted to hear. Although my data was correct, it was disappointing to him and called me out. So I went to that Toastmasters, found out it wasn't a drinking club. Yes, they drink. Okay, so what? But joined the corporate club and learned how to speak, and leadership did come with that. Why I stayed is because I moved from the corporate club external to more of community clubs, because internally to the corporate club, I started to advance so high and want more than they could offer. I needed to go to community clubs of advanced nature and really pull those skills out. And what I've learned being an officer in Toastmasters is that more than confidence, you need to see how people rally behind you, and by leading, you show that example and then they follow. You might not have the right answer, but then you work it out. You 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 work everything out to that leadership skill. And that's why I stay, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Linda. And now, why are you interested in the club growth director role, and why now?
It's been in my view, Mr. Moderator, club growth director is the first step to me as a managing position, moving beyond the leadership and little project management things I do at work. This is a bigger scale. This is actually supporting the members by doing the tools to manage the district level requirements around growth. And to do that, I come from a very strong position of how the area directors and division directors play a large role in achieving the accomplishment. We can't do it all. We need to rely on others and delegate. So when we're looking at clubs that are struggling, particularly during this time on Zoom, where people really are frustrated, frankly, on how do they advertise for members, and their club counts are going lower and lower. It's those visits from the area directors that should be motivated. It should be coming from the trio and motivating. What are they wanting to hear? We've been working for the last couple of years on SWOTs analysis to find the strengths and weaknesses, but now it's something different. It's a morale problem, perhaps. A lot of people are busy and can't find the time, or they don't see the benefit of Toastmasters, given the new environment of the workplace, where we have the upper hand as employees now, because people are finding they like a lesser job. They don't need to be stressed, and they're moving out to other better positions that they prefer. So now it's a matter of society of preference. Can Toastmasters be that? Absolutely. But it takes practice with the speeches and starting to get that soul connection to how that leadership fits for each individual. And I want to be part of that. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Linda. David, please unmute.
Unmuted I am.
Same question, thank you. Why are you interested in the club growth director role, and why now?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and fellow leaders, and for getting that formality. Why am I interested in the club growth director position, and why now? First, I'm interested in the club growth director position because it's all about the clubs. And I've already talked about how being a member of a strong, supportive club has impacted me. And I've seen weaker clubs. I've seen clubs where you had to take 2 roles every meeting, that you were the most senior member of the club, you didn't have a mentor, things of that nature. And I want every club in our district to be a strong club. I want every Toastmaster in our district to be supported and to be challenged to be the best that they can be. And why now? Early in my Toastmaster career, I was going like a rocket. I finished 14 speeches in my first 12 months in Toastmasters. I was president a year and a half, and actually half a year into my career as a Toastmaster. I became an area director, and I had some health issues. I pulled back. I raised a family. I was area director 3 times. I did some work with club mentoring, but I never stepped back up. And then I got encouraged again. Hey, Dave, you should be area director. I want you on my team. Dave, you should go for division director. And I want you to look further than that. And it was that encouragement that I got that reminded me that I have a lot to offer. And now is the time for me to bring that to the table. Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, David. David, you get the next question.
All right.
Describe your communication style.
Well, Mr. Moderator, fellow leaders, I'm a rather laid back person, but at the same time, I can be direct. And my goal in being a leader is to raise the boat, if you will, for everyone. So we're going to raise up that ocean. Colleen Marie has done a wonderful job this year working with the clubs. I've watched her work with her team, and I want to emulate that and improve upon it. So if I see someone is not doing what they've committed to do, I'm willing to speak up on that. I am able to be direct and I'm able to be real. That's something that I've learned through some other training that I've done. And at the same time, I'm easygoing, I'm approachable. So if someone has a problem, somebody has a question, they can come to me and they can feel confident that I will help them with whatever it is that they need, whatever their question is. So it's a little bit of a dichotomy, but I do want everyone to know that I am approachable and I get things done. Mr. What are you today? Moderator. I almost said contest chair.
Thank you, David. Linda, please unmute and describe your communication style.
Thank you, Brian. Everybody, communication styles change to who and when. So it depends on who you're talking to, when it is, what it's about, and why it needs to occur. One of the things, I even had the example of today, where a Toastmaster in a club just wasn't getting what they needed and didn't get the understanding across. And she was showing me frustration occurring in the emails. And I asked her to step back and look at this if you were in person in a verbal communication with body language in front of you. How now to write that written communication in a real open and honest and public speaking mode. And she said, I would write it softer. For that situation, it would require softness, circling back, restating. And if there's something that came up short for one of our committee members doing, it is not a matter of saying you didn't get it done. It's a matter of saying, what can I do to help you? And make that supportive piece. And the confidence that I need to build will be that one-on-one in those situations that cross the gamut of no action to overaction, if you will. And over the past few years as division and area director, I've had, I would say, way too many of my share of conflict resolution, but certainly that is there. And I have taken steps to avoid that and see that, and thinking ahead, which is my term of excellence, working ahead of the problem if I could, and provide some outcome and outline, and then get everyone on board to see if that can manage forward. To me, the style comes out to be a managing of everybody's consideration. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Linda. David, please unmute. Excuse me, Linda, I'm sorry. This is confusing, the alternating. Linda, please unmute. Describe your leadership style.
That's kind of one of the same thing. Leadership style, for how I practice at work for 40 years, in my project management is by timeline and goals and target hitting and moving everything forward and touching base with everyone on their tasks. And when they can give me a smart answer of completion. Toastmasters is a little opposite to that because we're throughout the year have dates to target for all these activities that have to occur, from club officer training to reports needing to be in on a certain date. And that task list is a tool, but how we manage that is a matter of understanding and communicating. Do we get the committees together? Do we get the group together? Do we get the club together and talk to the points? Do you understand what is needed now? And that styling to me for managing those situations is a leadership of being able to communicate through what's the passion to what's not working well, what works well, always that SWOT analysis. And I brought that forward last year's division director. It's really important if people really buy into seeing what the outcomes are and part of the process, it makes hopefully a lot of the journey easier. If people are not part of the process and pushing back, that's when the challenge of the leadership for me will be to step in and have the honest communications and pick up that phone, not write the email, and get to the resolution and understand what we need in the time that's needed. And I will continue to do that. And I'll probably learn a lot more forward in the management position too. But right now, that is the space I work with. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Linda. Now, David, unmute and describe your leadership style.
I like to say, Mr. Moderator, fellow leaders, that I am an includer and a developer. And what I mean by those two things is that when I have a team of people that I am working with, I am working with them, and that they are there to help make the decisions that need to be made, that their input that they have is valuable. So I'm not one of those top-down kind of people that's going to say, this is the way things are going to be done, and this is how it's going to happen. I want everyone to be involved. I do look for consensus. And what I mean by being a developer is that I will ask people to challenge themselves. I would like you to do X. Well, I don't know how to do X. Well, let's get you the right tools. Let's make this a learning opportunity for you. I want you to be better than when you started this position. I want to see all the people that I work with grow. And that's really what Toastmasters is all about, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, David. Next question. David, how do you make decisions when working with a team?
I think I've already alluded to that. I look for opinions. I weigh those opinions. I discuss them with the team, and I bring everyone in. It's not going to be a vote. You know, I certainly don't call on votes at work when I lead my team, but I'm listening to everyone's opinion and gathering those facts before I make a decision. And I want to make sure that everyone is on board with that decision. And every once in a while, we get the outlier, but that's a different conversation. That's usually a one-on-one. You know, what are your issues? How can we come to an agreement? But it's inclusive. It's bringing everyone to the table, getting all the facts, all the opinions, and then making a decision together. So basically, I'm leading the decision-making process, and as a team, we make those decisions. But in the case of conflict, luck stops here, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, David. Linda, you may unmute. How do you make decisions when working with a team?
Thank you for the question. Working with the team has all kinds of dynamics and all kinds of people positions in it. I do this on a daily basis at work. I actually have more fun at Toastmasters because it's more forgiving here. But there are challenges, and as much as you have a meeting and everyone's included to that meeting, there are difference of opinion that with some pushback, there's quite some discussion that's required. So what I like to do in some of that, and the trio have seen me do this, is ask some tough questions around what is it that you expect from me? And I could be the leader. I'm in the situation I wasn't, but I lead within 360. So everyone, what I teach on my teams is you can lead from the middle. And I've always presented a speech on how you can lead from the end of a skate line. Because no matter where we are, I want everyone to be a leader, but I need to know what they need to bring for their task, what it will look like, and incorporate their opinion and get it done their way. Because if I don't, I'll be doing the work for them. Because there are so many ways to get things done. There's not the right answer. And with the new election officers coming in every year, the clock starts over for a learning. So every year is fresh. Right? We've got the baseline from Toastmasters International, and we go from there, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Linda. Now, the next question. Linda, how have you successfully motivated volunteers?
Oh, thank you for the question. It's not shaking them, and it's not hugging them these days. Remember when we could meet and walk into a room and have that hand extended and shake and make that connection? I want that connection. That's the way I would do it. How I do it on Zoom is I lean in and I listen. And boy, has this made me a better listener. If that hasn't made me a better listener, then my questions have gotten a whole lot better than I expect, because I'm getting results everywhere. And the hardest is getting results from my own parents because of Toastmasters, being able to hear what they need when they can't be specific and figure it out quickly to ask the question back. And that's what it is. It's two-way communication and not driving the one side communication. It's about listening. What is it? And we don't have to answer the question in that one sitting with that conversation. It can be part one. Let's wait for part two. Maybe at part three, I'll be able to talk. But by then, I will be able to process the other person if it's a one-on-one, or everybody I meet has their position in things. And then I know them, I get to know them. And that helps me make decisions as well on how I can come forward and work with the people, ask their strengths. And I want to see their strengths to be able to work. But I know that as weaknesses, we can do a really good job, even if we're not as comfortable with some of those things to do. And I want to give comfort to folks that will help them, help me. And at the end of the day, it's helping them. So I really, really look forward to those kinds of conversations, because I can only imagine I'll be working with a whole lot more people than I have as a division director. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. David, you may unmute. How have you
All right.
successfully motivated volunteers?
When motivating volunteers, it's not like at work where everyone's there for a paycheck. They're worried about their performance. They're worried about their promotion. So there are two things to consider when motivating the volunteer. The first one is finding out what their why is. Why did they volunteer in the first place? What's in it for them? Are they there because they want to grow as a person? Are they there to give back? some combination of that. And when you understand that, then you can review that why with them. And that's a real motivating factor. The other time that volunteers need to be motivated is when they feel overwhelmed or they don't know what to do. And that is one of the things that you do then as a leader is you show them the how. It's like, well, this is how you approach that. You had a difficult conversation with the club president. This is how you can approach it better. Or maybe you need to circle back and really listen. Whatever the skill that might be lacking is for that person, you help them develop that. So in a volunteer organization, people are looking to give back. They're also looking for something for themselves. Usually they want to develop in some way. They want a new experience. They want to make friends. And that's what you use to motivate your volunteers. Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, David. That brings us to the next question. David, how do you handle conflict?
Mr. Moderator, fellow leaders, conflict is a scary word because you have people oftentimes with high emotions, with differing opinions, people that clash with each other. And really the key to dealing with conflict is the second half of communication that Linda mentioned before, which is listen. Usually people have conflicts due to a different point of view or even a misunderstanding. So if one person sees X, another person sees Y, the best way to handle that type of conflict is to show the one person the Y and the other person the X. Get them to understand each other's perspectives, and then the conflict dissipates. When I'm involved in the conflict, that's more of the internal struggle. I don't like this person. No, wait, that's not true. I don't like what they're saying. What is their perspective? Where are they coming from? And I ask those questions internally myself. And then when I can reflect back to that other person, what their perspective is, what their point of view is, and I may not agree with it, but at least I understand it. That will ameliorate the conflict. And I try and endeavor, those are synonyms, right? I endeavor to do that with all my conversations. Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, David. Linda, how do you handle conflict?
Well, can I wish that one doesn't ever happen? It just won't be there. I could just walk away and pretend it didn't happen. There are a couple facets. There's that internal struggle on questioning, did I do that right? The person had a funny look. I wonder if I really created a wedge. And I have learned over the past couple of years is make the call. Are you okay with what I said? And put not the blame on me and don't apologize, but just say, hey, I'm feeling this because I was convicted of saying something. And if anyone's religious, they know what that is, because you get this little ping in your heart right away going, oh, wait, that was probably bad. It is probably bad, right? And you just have to follow up with it. If you let that go and fester, that's really serious. And I have been part of those where either having a moderator or being the moderator, but really putting out the Toastmaster promise as the guideline to how that conversation will take place, and really listen, really listen, because one side will be adamant on always staying to a position. And what makes a conflict is one side is working with objective real data and the other side is working with emotion, which is subjective. And it's a matter of compromising to understanding to get to the resolution. And really do want to finish all those kinds of conversations, even without a moderator. As a friend, glad we had this talk. Really feel better about it. Won't do it in the future. Really will watch my words, because isn't it true in all the things we have done in early speeches is word choice and tone, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Linda. Next question. Linda, how do you handle failure?
Oh, well, I keep a roll of, this is my form of Kleenex because it's cheaper than Kleenex these days. And first I tear up and dry my eyes. And then I think about it by journaling and realizing, you know what? I didn't fail. I fell forward. I can recover from this, but you have to really ground yourself. It's better to be grounded in situations beforehand so you can kind of prevent a lot of that. But when it's really failure, like you promoted at work a wrong something or other, and it's just off base, but your data was frankly wrong. And objective that you want to always have your data right, but that was wrong. You know, it's a matter of quickly spotting this. I give it one night, 12 hours period, and get back to that team and manager. And I do that. I did that this week already. Send a note. Hey, this criteria was represented as something as the only option. I reviewed it and found alternate options. And so I misspoke in not having all the information. And I got a manager writing back saying, you know, you don't have to know it all the time. Just be authentic and honest about it. So that's what I would really, really promote going forward. It's not failure if we know about it and can address it and resolve it. It is failure if you ignore it and let it fester, and then it becomes something else. But we internalize that. We want to get rid of that and go to joy pretty quick. So I would recommend that for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. David, you may unmute.
All
How do
right,
you handle
unmuted
failure?
I am.
How do you handle failure?
How do I handle failure? Usually by failing again. When I fail, it's not a failure. It's not a lack of trying, but I've swung for the fences. I look at it, if you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough. And if I try to get a big goal and I fail at it, I've still gotten a pretty good goal completed. You know, if I haven't quite made my numbers, I've done more than if I didn't try. So I look at failure the way the professional baseball players who look at Babe Ruth. He is known as a slugger. He struck out more than he hit, but when he hit him over the fence. And that's the way I view or approach things that I do. You know, I look at my election last year. I ran against Paul Levinsky for Division C director. And that Paul was totally by happenstance. I have clubs in Division C and what was in Division N, now Division B. And Robbie says, okay, you need to pick a division. It's like, okay, fine, C. Okay, well, you'll be running against Paul Levinsky. And I lost. But what happened when I lost? I went right to Deb Lou and I said, what else do you have for me? And she said, well, I have this admin manager role. It's like, well, that's the one that Troy Descartes said I should go for if I didn't win my election. Fine, I'll take it. 3 months into it, we had a resignation and I found myself as a division director. Even though I failed, I succeeded. Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, David. Next question, David. Who are key partnerships for the club growth director and why?
There are so many. As a club growth director, of course, you are part of the trio. So the program quality director and the district director are your immediate partners. Then there's the team that you develop, which includes a retention chair and a club growth chair and a club mentor chair, and then all the teams that you have underneath them. And then also your area and division directors. They're like your foot soldiers. They're the people that are closest to the clubs, and the reports that they send back to you can give you a better view of what's going on with the clubs in the district. So it's a whole big team of people. And I would say most closely is the district trio that you're a part of, and also the teams that you build. Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, David. Linda, who are key partnerships for the club growth director and why?
Thank you for the question. You know, all of the officers, but in particular, I look at the division and area directors as the first face or visit that could help them so often. Being an area director 3 times, it was so invaluable for the trio, for any of the positions, to have an area director able to communicate to the division director the struggles of a club. Because you know, when you go twice and there's a couple clubs you want to visit consecutively within the same month, to go, something wasn't right there. And when you look at their DCPs before you go in and their retention, and you start seeing there's some history here that they just can't make their membership numbers, and you know what's going on, and you got to communicate that. So at the retention level, it's definitely the area directors and division directors that I would rely on for that partnership of communication if there's a struggle with a club. Then on the club growth director side, with the list of new potential clubs, the whole committee I need to do the demo meetings and everything that would be required, including, let me go back to coach, I forgot to bring the coaches up for that retention piece. Assigning a coach for that with volunteerism behind that is really important, and that needs to come as a development, almost as a mentorship out of the area and division directors. But the club growth is a whole committee of people that can do the demo meetings and start progressing a lot of that new change through, as mentioned by Dave. And it is really important that we rely on people's impression of what happened to get accurate information. And even if it's bad information, to be able to sort that out and touch base back to the clubs and or the new club perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Next question, Linda. What will be your first priority as club growth director to support the district mission?
I would like to have in place an idea of who I would ask to be on the committees. And it's usually a committee of 1, that's fine. But they're managing that one piece with reporting in, and that when I have these meetings, it's not only just the one-on-one, but I like to give a message on the collective. So I would have the whole committee there so everyone knows their part. I wouldn't want one person to do more than what they would be responsible for. It would be overwhelming and not fair. So hearing what others do and what they're assigned to do in their role for these committees would be important. And I like I did as a division and area director, once every 3-4 months, once a quarter, definitely worked out. We always did them on Zoom before it was COVID. It was fine. But it was just touch base, and they got down to 30 minutes. Just here are our tasks in the next 3 months. Where are we at? What is it looking like? And that's what I would do. I'd be very supportive in communicating as a group. And then if there was a one-on-one for special needs, because everything is not cookie cutter, everything's going to have some difference to it, that there's going to be some special needs and individual attention on a few things. What I definitely see is there's 2 attributes: retention and club growth. Those have to go hand in hand, because how do you do club growth and lose retention? It's not fair to the clubs that exist today without supporting them as well. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Linda. David, you may unmute. What will be your first priority as club growth director to support the district mission?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Moderator, fellow leaders. I think my first priority is the clubs. That goes without saying, really. We look at retention and we look at growth of new clubs. And one thing that I want to add, I look at it as a growth in leadership. I was excited to learn about a program that Toastmasters has in the Club Growth Director Manual called the Club Ambassador Program. And that is a program where regular Toastmasters go and visit other clubs. And they go visit a club, they fill out a report, and they earn a point. And then if they earn so many points, or maybe a prize for the one that's earned the most points, they get rewarded and acknowledged in some way. And I see this as a great way of getting clubs to understand each other better. Your ambassador goes out and see how another club operates. They can leave feedback, and then they can take what they learned from that club back to their own club, strengthening both clubs. And at the same time, we get the Toastmasters out of their clubs. They start learning about the world of Toastmasters beyond their club. I think that's one of the things that is missing these days. There aren't as many people participating in speech contests. And for me, that used to be the best way of getting outside the club, was to do a speech contest. But I think this Club Ambassador program is something, I've done some research, looked at other districts that are doing it, and it looks like a really exciting program. And that will be one of the first things that I'll be looking at if I'm Club Growth Director. Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, David. And now, David, the next question. As Club Growth Director, how will you support and promote member retention?
Member retention, I've talked about that a little bit. I think that the Club Ambassador program will help to strengthen those clubs. And then at the same time, we'll have a club retention chair, and we'll work with that individual and their committee to work with clubs, work with the quality of the clubs, help them with their marketing, provide, and a lot of this material we already have out there, just to make it available to the clubs that they know. You don't have a membership packet? Here is one. Take a look at it and make it work for your club. I think a lot of our club officers, they look at, oh, we need a club membership packet. I don't know how to do that. We have the tools. We just have to make sure that the Toastmaster clubs know that they're there and how to use them. So I think that kind of education will help the Toastmaster clubs help themselves as they build members and build quality within their clubs. Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, David. Linda, as Club Growth Director, How will you support and promote member retention?
Absolutely. Past recipient of the Phoenix as a coach in doing just that for not one club, but informally to a bunch of clubs. Definitely, it's a matter of the club officers, and in that case, there would probably be a low member club. It would be everybody engaged in the conversation on what works, what doesn't work. And I like to use the tool, the MOT. We get a lot of that in the club officers training with moments of truth. But when you look at 36 line items in the 6 categories it offers, if a club meets just one of those for every category, they start getting the confidence to step out and we'll start working a process, and then it becomes a routine. And then the next year the officers switch around because all the members are the same. It's a hobby club, right? And they start keeping that routine. They start documenting what that routine is. They start seeing a lot of success. If not that, they have a lot of camaraderie because now they've rallied around the specifics that work to move the club forward. And retention really is a matter of breaking through in a club and finding out what is their niche, what is their piece they can advertise. Every club has it, they just can't identify it sometimes. And then go for it. And then have consistency with their meetings so they can demonstrate and make sure their speakers and people knowing there's guests coming so they can put their best quality meeting together. And what happens is that becomes a routine for a quality meeting week after week, and guests start to join. Then they have retention and renewal. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Linda. And Linda, next question. How will you address low member clubs?
I'll expand on that. Low member clubs are clubs that are under 8. And then when they get into contest season, they have really good speakers they want to bring forward and they disqualify and they're bummed out. And then you look at the low member clubs that just can't seem to keep members because there may be a corporate club and the corporate no longer sponsoring them, which is an example I have right now going on. And what to do in those 2 situations. Here's what I've done to the second one is you don't need to rely on the corporate. Let's make you a community club. What will that look like? Well, it means moving away from all the financial burdens that they would have because they were buying all kinds of tools, free, not having the free website, not having the free different attributes, and not utilizing Facebook, some of the free LinkedIn and for advertising, not knowing that they could make free Canva art for little posters. And that club is having a guest every week. The other club that was a corporate club, they're low member, they're trying to get internal. So if you can offer this to community and include them, you can bring your membership more than the corporate. And that's working well too. Is thinking differently, thinking out of the box, moving the clubs to think that they're not stuck in a rut and there's possibilities. And there's so many examples other clubs do that they can piggyback on that and get it to work their way. And I'm all supportive of that. And as division director, I manage that situation day in and day out with all the many clubs in Division B last year. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I have to say, my birds are starting to chirp. Let me go get them out of it.
Thank you, Linda. David, you may unmute. How will you address low member clubs?
There's a process that the club coach would go through to help a low member club. And I would want every low member club. Now, they have to ask for it. They have to want the help. But I would want every low member club to have a club coach. And that club coach should be trained in what to do when they get there. It's like, all right, we need to take the members, look at that moments of truth, look at what it takes to be a quality club. And this does not come from the club coach, but it's an exercise that the club coach leads with the members. Where can we improve? And sure, they might make some suggestions, but the real identity needs to come from the club members. And then they work on building that quality club. They meet regularly. Oh, well, we only have 3 people here. Let's not meet. I've had a club meeting with 3 people in it, and it was fabulous. We had a speaker, an evaluator, we had table topics. And it was a good meeting. It was short, but it was good. You have pathway speeches, and you have encouraging evaluations for each of those speeches. And you have themes, and you have table topics that address the theme, and you do those things to make it a cohesive meeting. And you've built that. You look at building your membership by doing marketing. And you bring that out. If it's a corporate club, you can use corporate tools. You can use Facebook, all those social media things, going to neighborhood venues, and you continue that, and pretty soon you have a club that's vibrant and has members to support it. Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, David. David, next question.
Okay.
What innovative approaches will you bring to this role?
Mr. Moderator, fellow leaders, thank you for that question. What innovative approaches will I bring to this role? I've already mentioned one of them, a brand new program that I am really excited about exploring and implementing with the district. But beyond that, it's treating every officer of every club, every area director, and every division director, and every district officer as being my partner. We're all in this together. And we all have a common goal. And we would like to be a strong district, a distinguished district, and have strong clubs and have some new clubs as well. So I think what I would do is remind the area directors, because I don't think I ever received that if you see something, say something. If you see something that just doesn't quite feel right in one of your clubs, bring it to somebody's attention. Work with your division director, work with the club growth director so that the clubs can get the attention that they need. Sometimes a club looks great on paper. They've got 20 members. You go to the meeting and there's 6 people there. What's wrong? And our area directors and our club officers can be our bellwether. They can be our first sign. And that's something that I haven't seen until I got into a division role. It's like, oh, we got to watch the clubs. But if we have everyone doing that, I think we'll be able to pivot quicker, and we'll be able to strengthen clubs before they become full member clubs. Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, David. Linda, what innovative approaches will you bring to this role?
Thank you for the question. I had been thinking about that. And I come from a mindset of keep it simple, basic, let others' confidence grow. If people grow, they'll pull you up as a leader. I'm not about seeking anything at this level. I've gotten all the accomplishments I never thought I would get in Toastmasters. But I want that for others. And the innovation wouldn't be anything new. It's actually old words in that while we work pathways or speaking roles of any type in a club, that provides the confidence. And if people really start to stop analyzing what they're hearing and hearing the message of others, which is something what I'm starting to see in clubs, people are so in tune onto evaluating, they're forgetting to listen to actually the person's message, which could be helpful. Oh, a takeaway. We're always looking for a takeaway. And I don't know how I'll achieve that, but I would like people to start really feeling comfortable in Toastmasters with more clubs engaged with a happier time with speeches as not a chore, evaluator as not a criticism, table topics, not a political or religious defeat, but change the tone and words of that. You can have the same conversations and get everyone's morale up. And maybe that will start helping that retention and definitely the quality of a meeting and make people want to join right away. I'm in 2 clubs that absolutely the guest doesn't leave without joining that moment. They're like, this is the club, you know, and they're D6. So it's worth that comfort, loyalty piece. And that's what I would try to bring. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Linda, our final question. Describe the current, unmute please. Describe the current state and future potential of District 6.
The current state of District 6 is mediocre, surviving, couple clubs just not making it. I started to see that as division director last year. What we want to do in those situations is if the club really can't make it is give it a try one more time with coach or additional support from the area director, division director, club growth director, right? You have to step in. But make it an offer if there's nothing else left to transfer to another club and support them in doing so. I've had to do that in one club where it's a little different situation where they have an HR problem, it's a corporate club, and the one person's getting forced out to quit because they're being cited not able to do their job. So we're finding that person a community club, stay in Toastmasters. There's going to be so many different things that go on that support and that outreach that has to happen is only going to be known with the area and division director feedback. And it's going to be looking beyond what the visit report questions are. It's really looking at and I hate to say it because it's been overused, but health, the health of everybody in that club. And are they secure with maintaining that club? So there's going to be different things happening, but if we can save the club, that will strengthen our district. We don't want to lose clubs and we want to gain clubs. And on the club growth, we want to always be adding clubs. And I saw the list, it's a large list, but if they can meet that minimum goal to charter, I'd like to see 10 clubs in a year and every year. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. David, final question. Describe the current state and future potential of District 6.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I don't want to mince words. In some respects, we're in a world of hurt. We have been through 2 years of pandemic. There are so many Toastmasters that are not participating because they don't like Zoom. They've got Zoom fatigue, etc. I have members in a couple of my clubs that don't want to participate in online contests It just doesn't do it for them. They want to be live. They want to use all that body language and all those gestures. And I think this year coming up will be a pivot year. It will be a year when things will start turning northward. And we will come out of this pandemic stronger than we were before. Because before the pandemic, what was our club model? We met in person. You met at a library, a church, a company, a restaurant, a community center. Now we have 3 different options for clubs. We have online only, we have in-person only, and we have hybrid. Oh, where do you meet? Well, we meet at the Lutheran Church down the block and online. So if you can't make it out of the house but still want to come to the meeting, you can get on your computer. So we are offering more abilities for people to join Toastmasters and to participate. You think of people that are homebound, people that are handicapped, that can't really get out. They now have a way to participate in Toastmasters they didn't really have before. And with the live and hybrid clubs, a lot of the people that were shying away from Toastmasters during the COVID epidemic will come back and will participate again. So I think that we have a bright future ahead of us and we have a lot of work to do, and I'm looking forward to doing it. Mr. Moderator.
Thank you. Now we have, excuse me, now we have 2 to 3 minute closing statements. And I will ask David to provide his statement first.
Well, thank you, Mr. Moderator, fellow leaders. I started in Toastmasters 23 years ago as someone, as I had said, shaking in my boots. I grabbed onto the lectern for dear life and I read my speech word for word. When I finished, I looked up. Everyone applauded. That was the encouragement I needed to grow and become a speaker. I've told stories on stage for 500 people. I've become a professional Santa Claus. I've grown so much in Toastmasters. And I'm not saying this because what a good boy am I, but it was because of the strong clubs, the encouragement I received, the coaching I received from senior Toastmasters that allowed me to do all of that. And I want each and every club to be that environment for each and every member in the district. I look at our district and I want to set my sights high. I want to support the district in being distinguished next year. So that will mean that I'm going to set my sights even higher. Look to get a 50% distinguished club rate, to probably bring in 10 clubs in the next year. That's a good number. Linda had mentioned that as well. We would need 6 and then a few more to balance out any that we may lose. And we would need to increase membership payments by about 180. And those are things that are stretch goals, but they are achievable. By building the right team and having everyone in the district aligned to those goals, is something that we can do. I look forward to the next year and for the years after that in the trio. And I think that we will have a good future as a Toastmasters district. Mr. Moderator.
Thank you very much, David. Linda, please unmute. And now your 2 to 3 minute closing statement.
Thank you. Toastmasters has meant so much to me. I started in 2013, late to the game. It was really important to me to be able to speak without the crutch words and things that started to diminish me in the workplace, that I just needed to raise myself above that and be excellent and prepared for everything I do. And I have demonstrated that to this day with rewards from Toastmasters that taught me these tools and mentors here, to endless awards over the past 3 years alone in a 40-year career as an engineer. Double promotions and raises beyond my comprehension, and bonuses I've never thought I would have. And keep basing that back to my principles and character of trying to do my best as a supportive person to others, because I am full of empathy, and I will feel the empathy more than anything else and make sure all communications and everything is correct. Now, with that responsibility and that ability that I just mentioned as a character, that could create a stress for me. But what I would like to really send the message home is my stress shouldn't become other people's stress. And with our mission statement for the district, the role as TRIO and Club Growth Director is to maintain clubs and grow clubs. Those challenges are there. We don't know what it will look like. What I can tell you that we don't know how to reach the younger 20 and 30-year-olds to bring them into Toastmasters. We got to figure that out. This has been a message for years. Every now and then we get a new, fresh 30-year-old and we kind of all want to be their mentor. Well, got to let them breathe. I got to let them learn. And learning leadership from speaking happens, but stepping into the club director growth piece is a managerial move. It's scary, but it is dependent on Toastmasters already having tools available for us to use, working the process in the background to be able to communicate where we have the dashboard beyond the DCP, the other dashboards, to become distinguished district and bring that message forward without over messaging and bringing exactly what's needed for what our officers, directors, and area directors need to hear. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. And now I just want to say thank you to both of our two candidates for participating this evening. And I'd like to return control of this session to our current Club Growth Director, Colleen Marie Kelly.
Thank you, Brian. Excellent job moderating our session tonight. I genuinely appreciate it. I appreciate Deb's willingness to be our timer tonight. So thank you, Deb, for doing that for us. Appreciate that. And thank you, Linda and Dave, for your willingness to just talk with us tonight and just answer some questions. It's the saying that goes, inquiring minds want to know. And it's a little way that we can get to know you. As having served in the role, it is a very important role. And I am excited for what the future holds for District 6, as I believe the greatest days of District 6 are yet ahead. And I'm excited that what the future looks like. With that, I will close our meeting here at this time. Diane, I see you have your hand raised. Okay, I just wanted to make sure she didn't have any questions. That is okay. But I just again want to thank everyone for coming tonight and just the opportunity to be together. I hope you all have a great night and definitely be a part of this amazing upcoming spring conference. I have to tell you, Linda has put crazy, did I say crazy? Amount of effort and energy and excitement into planning this event. She definitely has modeled excitement on steroids, and you definitely want to be a part of it. So with that, you guys have a great evening, and we will talk to all of you soon. Have a great night.
Thank you, Colleen Marie.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a good night, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thanks so much for coming.
Good night.
Night.